Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Luckiest Peach podcast. I am your host, Rachel the Lucky Peach. Hello, welcome back to another Spooky Month episode where we're going to be talking about everything spooky this month. Get excited. So, that being said, of course, our Cult of the Month choice is it a spooky movie? Well, not really spooky, but it's a spooky movie. A spooky movie, if you will. Thank you for joining me in the most wonderful time of the year. If you are new here, Cult of the Month is the second week of each month where I review a cult classic film. Woo, 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 woo. I just had, well, I'm in the middle of drinking an energy drink, so I apologize if I burp. But I'm not going to bother to edit them out because y'all know by now that this is a very minimally edited podcast. What you see is what you get. All my glory and insanity. Anyways, yeah, thank you for being here. Yeah, that being said, the cliche, pretty much like standard choice would be like Rocky Horror Picture Show or like Suspiria, something like that. But although Rocky Horror Picture Show is one of my favorite movies, if you're watching on Patreon at patreon.com/Lucky Peach, you can see I have a poster of it on camera. It's on camera. For once, I'm pointing at something that actually is on camera. Yeah, that would be pretty much the standard choice. But, a lot of people, it's a cult classic. I'm definitely a fan of it. I'm definitely part of the Rocky Horror cult. But, do you need to listen to another gay talking about this movie? Do you need that? I think you can wait. Also, I would rather save it for a drunk commentary to show it to some friends for the first time, because there's nothing more I love than that. If you've listened to previous episodes of drunk commentary, you'll know that like a lot of those movies, I was the only one who had previously seen the movie before showing it to my friends, and that's what I enjoy doing most. It's kind of like my preference when it comes to these drunk commentaries is like I want to watch a movie that I think is either good or bad, but entertaining nonetheless. But I also want to show it to my friends for the first time, just to get their reactions, because that's the fun thing about it. Maybe down the line, we can get audience suggestions for maybe movies that I haven't seen. But for now, that's what we're doing. But enough about that, because this is not drunk commentary. This is Cult of the Month. And we are reviewing The Witches of Eastwick from 1987. Right, 1987. Did I get the year right? Yes. It is directed by George Miller, of Mad Max fame. So, you're getting into something good if it's directed by George Miller. Yeah, I enjoyed this. It's not what I was expecting, I'm gonna say, but like I don't mean that in a bad way. Like it's definitely different. So, getting into it though, it is considered a dark fantasy comedy film. It stars Jack Nicholson, Cher, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Susan Sarandon. And the film is based on John Updike's 1984 novel of the same name. So, yeah, there's that. The music is also by John Williams. So, like, there's that. The runtime is like just under 2 hours. It is 118 minutes. And the plot, hold on to your seats, it's going to take a while. The plot is Alexandra Medford, Cher, Jane Spofford, Susan Sarandon, and Suki Ridgemont, Michelle Pfeiffer, are three dissatisfied women living in the picturesque town of Eastwick, Rhode Island. Sculptor Alex is a single mother of one daughter. Newly divorced music teacher Jane is unable to have children, and Suki has 6 daughters and works as a columnist for the Eastwick Word, the local newspaper. The three friends have all lost their husbands. Alex has died, Jane's divorced her, and Suki's abandoned her. Unaware of being witches, the women unwittingly form a coven, getting together weekly to discuss ideal men. A mysterious man, Jack Nicholson, arrives in town and scandalously buys the town's landmark property, the Lennox Mansion. The enigmatic stranger's arrival fascinates the townsfolk, all except for Felicia Alden, Veronica Cartwright, and devoutly religious wife of newspaper editor Clyde Alden, Richard Jenkins, Suki's boss. Felicia senses that this man is ill-intentioned. One night at one of Jane's music recitals, the strange man appears and makes a spectacle of himself, which leads to more gossip. After the recital, Jane receives a bouquet of flowers with the initial D written on it. This sparks Suki's memory, finally revealing the man's name as Daryl Van Horn. However, as chaos over the name spreads through the crowd, Suki's bead necklace inexplicably breaks and falls to the floor, causing Felicia to trip down a large staircase and break her leg. The following day, Daryl sets out to seduce Alex. As he converses with her, he says insensitive, disgusting, and rude things whenever he speaks. Appalled, she tells him off, refuses his amorous advances, and begins to walk out. Before she opens the door, he speaks to her, manipulating her emotions until she eventually agrees. The next morning, Daryl visits the shy and insecure Jane. As the two sit down and politely converse, Jane explains that the Lennox Mansion was built on a site where alleged witches were executed. Later that night, Daryl encourages Jane to play her cello with wild abandon, never before achieved, playing increasingly fast while accompanied by Daryl on the piano, until finally the strings emit smoke. The cello catches fire, and Jane passionately flings herself upon Daryl. The following week, Daryl invites all three women to his mansion, now seeking Suki. Later, as envy and rivalry emerge among the women, they inadvertently levitate a tennis ball. Finally, aware of their magical abilities, the women agree to share Daryl. As the women spend more time at Daryl's mansion, Felicia spreads rumors about their indecency, turning the trio into social outcasts. As the witches begin to question their loyalty to Daryl, he causes them to unknowingly cast a spell against Felicia. Later that night, while ranting to her husband about Daryl being the devil, Felicia begins to vomit cherry pits. Horrified by her uncontrollable behavior, Clyde kills her with the fire poker. After Felicia's death, the trio, fearing their powers, agree to avoid each other and Daryl until the situation has stabilized. Upset at being abandoned, Daryl uses his own powers to awaken their worst fears. Alex awakens to a bed full of snakes, Jane's body begins rapidly aging, and Suki experiences sudden, agonizing pain. Realizing they can only remove Daryl by using witchcraft against him, they reunite with him, pretending to have made amends. The next morning, Daryl sets out to buy bagels and ice cream as the trio requested. While he is out of the mansion, Alex uses candle wax and Daryl's hair to create a voodoo doll in his image, and the three women begin to harm the doll. Hoping that Daryl will consequently depart. As the spell takes effect, Daryl, still in town, is buffeted by a sudden wind and begins to feel excruciating pain. He runs inside a church to hide from the wind and finds it full of people praying. Realizing the source of his troubles, he begins ranting about the women, cursing them as a group before vomiting cherry pits as Felicia did. An enraged Daryl then races home to punish the witches for their betrayal. Initially unsure if their plot to banish Daryl has affected him, they attempt to hide their spell and behave normally, only to be shocked when he enters the mansion disheveled, incoherent, and bent on revenge. An attempt by the witches to retrieve the voodoo doll results in it being smashed into 3 segments. This causes Daryl to transform to a large monstrous form that attempts to shake the mansion apart and starts a fire. The witches then toss the voodoo doll into the fire, causing Daryl to change again into a shriveled homunculus that then vanishes. 18 months later, the women are living together in Daryl's mansion, each with a new baby son. The boys are playing together when Daryl appears on a wall filled with video screens, inviting them to give Daddy a kiss. Before they can do so, the ladies appear and switch off the televisions. There it is. There it is. It was definitely not what I was expecting. That is not. When I went into it, I didn't think it was gonna be like they didn't know they were witches, and they realized it later on in the movie. Like they unknowingly do that shit. I thought it was gonna be like on purpose. Which also made me realize the Craft wishes it could be this movie. I watched The Craft sometime after I watched this, and I was not that much of a fan of it. Like it gave off vibes. I mean, I know I'm not reviewing The Craft on this episode, but I'm gonna tell you what I think anyways. It gave off vibes of like those arrogant like baby witches on TikTok. Especially like the ones from last year who like were like, I hexed the moon. Aha. Okay, like get over yourself. Or like the baby witches who like think that they're like the only like person interacting with deities. Like, get over yourself. Get over yourself. An example of that is like, so like deities, they're busy. They're fucking busy. They have a lot of people that they are patrons of. So obviously they're not going to be available to communicate with you at all times. Sometimes they're not going to be there because they're talking to somebody else or they got other shit to do. But like there will be people on TikTok who are like, I think there's beef and like a war brewing in Olympus. I think Olympus is about to fall because I haven't talked to Hades, and well, Hades doesn't go up there. They're like, I haven't talked to Zeus in weeks. He hasn't been here. He hasn't communicated with me. I think there's something wrong. I'm like, no, he's just fucking busy because he's the fucking king of the gods, and he has other people to talk to. Like, check yourself. Check yourself. You think you are like the peak of importance to Zeus, the daddy god? Hell no. But anyways, that's what I thought of The Craft. But that's not what we're here for. But yeah, that being said, The Craft wishes it could be the Witches of Eastwick, which obviously there's differences. Like in The Craft, they kind of already knew they were witches, and for whatever reason, they needed four to form a coven to each represent one of the elements, which makes sense, but like that's not entirely true. Yeah, but I liked this a lot. That being said, especially compared to that. Yeah, I am a fan of this cast. Um, I mean, Jack Nicholson and Susan Sarandon have been pretty weird in recent years, but that being said, I do like this cast. I absolutely adore Michelle Pfeiffer, and like 1987, this is her like really early on in her career. When did Scarface come out? I think it came out before this, but that being said, it's still early in her career. She's just so pretty. I love her. Also, when Richard Jenkins appears in a movie, it automatically goes up a star for me. I also love Richard Jenkins. I think he's fantastic. And he should have won that Oscar for Shape of Water. Yeah, like it's campy, I guess, in a way. But as our most witchy cult classic movies from this time period. Because this is the same decade that gave us, American Werewolf in London and like Heathers. There's a lot of these types of movies coming out of this era, which is great. I love all of them. Well, I mean, I had mixed feelings about American Werewolf in London. And we all know I don't like John Landis. But but there's a lot of these like campy, culty movies coming out in this era. So it fits the vibe. So yeah, there's did I mention the storm? There is the storm that like happens the day before Jack Nicholson arrives, like this really fucking catastrophic, like nor'easter, hurricane vibe storm. And when they walk out the next morning, everything, and like I know magic is involved in this scene, but how the fuck did Eastwick not flood? Like I don't know what the drainage situation in New England is like. I really don't. I obviously live in a region of the country that is supposed to be like riverlands and swamps. And so, therefore, because the swamps and riverlands were torn up, it floods a lot. Um, but, like, how did a storm that catastrophic hit Eastwick and it didn't flood? Regardless of the magic involved, how? Make it make sense. Anyways, um, yeah, that just that doesn't add up to me. Something that does add up though is Cher absolutely would be a witch. I don't know if she is IRL. I'm not gonna assume her religion or her practice. But like like Cher in this movie just feels like the most perfect casting. Like Susan and Michelle is like they fit the vibe of like, oh, we're witches and we don't know it, because they have that soft, cute girl energy. And Cher's just like she absolutely is like the tie-in of like, oh yeah, they're definitely witches. She's Cher has witch energy, and I love it. I think it's great casting. Um, yeah, yeah. I'm reading back my notes. I recently started taking notes during these movies, and I realized like I need to change my method of taking notes because then when I come back to them, I don't know what the fuck I meant. I think it's Jack Nicholson wears some like really high waisted pants in a scene. That's really great. Yeah. I watched this movie like a month ago. I'm not gonna lie. Uh, I probably should not do that. I should probably watch the movies and then immediately record. And I should also take better notes so that when I come back to them, I'm not confused. I'm glad I'm taking notes because I usually forget my thoughts immediately after watching a movie. Um, yeah, yeah. I will say, like, this movie isn't scary, but there's Jack Nicholson has a half up, half down ponytail hairstyle early on in the movie, and that alone is the scariest part of the movie. Jack Nicholson in general is scary. I think he's a great actor, but he's terrifying. He has a terrifying face, and not in a good way, not in like a Willem Dafoe, Mark Rebier type of way. No, he's just fucking scary. I don't. He's scary. I do. He's a great actor. I like him, but like he's scary. So in a way, I think that's good casting. You know. Um, I do. Yeah, I think him being playing a piece of shit adds up. I don't know that he is a piece of shit though, so I'm not going to assume that. Um, yeah, but that being said, Cher telling him off, a feminist icon. We love her. Um, on a more technical note, though, like the cinematography is fucking insane. Ooh, it's wild. It's wild. Woo, 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 woo. What are my fucking notes? I need to get better at taking notes because, like, a lot of them are just like random thoughts I had. Like, one of them just says, "Can I pet that dog?" And I have another note that says, "Go away, Tay." That's during one of the like scenes near the end, like near the climax. Uh, Yeah. Yeah. One thing I didn't really like about this movie is like, as a witch, I don't like when movies misrepresent the trials, because it's like, these are people who are persecuted mostly for no fucking reason at all, because a lot of them weren't witches at all. It was just neighbors being like, hey, I don't like you, I'm gonna turn you in and say you're a witch, and then you end up getting killed, which is fucked up. So yeah, it was a lot of neighbors. It was a lot of gossip and drama mostly. I mean, obviously there were some witches, real actual witches, who were killed. But yeah, because of that, I don't like when the history of the trials is like, the real history of it is like kind of erased for the plot of a movie. And I know like that's the least of concerns in terms of erasure, but it's still something. Like, to get history wrong, you can have entire generations that view it wrongly. Like, you have thousands of people that believe due to movies and you know, like wrong assumptions that people were burned uh, during the trials, and not a single person was burned. They didn't burn anybody at the stake. They hanged them. So like, that's like, there's a lot of misconceptions that I don't know where they came from, because like, I don't know. Like, I know when I was in high school we read the Crucible, but they were hanged in the Crucible. You know, I know a lot of people like what the fuck, Practical Magic. The opening scene with the trial, she was hanged. I mean, she didn't die. She survived it, but like, so I don't know where the misconception that witches were burned at the stake came from, but I don't like it. Um, yeah, and this movie feeds into that. I really don't like movies that recount the trials incorrectly. I don't know if it's for like the plot, but I don't like it. I don't like it. This is why I didn't watch Fear Street. Like, I started the first part of Fear Street, and they started talking about the witches in a bad way that isn't correct to history, and I was like, I'm done. I'm not watching this. It irked me off. I do not like it. I do not like it. Yeah. This movie is basically, perverted old rich man manipulates independent young women. Uh, which, this movie came out 30 some odd years ago. And perverted old rich men are still doing that. How the times don't change. Kill all men. Kill all men. Yeah. Um, yeah. Like, another thought on that, like, they can do, I mean, I know they did their little, their manifestation at the beginning of the movie, but they can do better than Jack Nicholson. They really can. Like, they can do better than Jack Nicholson. Like, I can't speak on the personality thing, because guys do, manipulative men have ways of just like playing you that you don't realize what's going on until it's too late. I have fallen victim to that, unfortunately. But he's not even that attractive. Like maybe in the early 70s, yeah, he was pretty attractive. But he very quickly aged like milk. Especially around the time this movie came out, he was starting to age like milk. They can do better than that. They can do so much better than that. They really can. Um, and that being said, like, the people in Eastwick were talking shit about them because they were hanging out with them. And they were like, oh, y'all are whores, blah, 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 slut shaming. Why weren't they talking about how ugly he is? Why were they busy slut shaming them? The women, I mean, that's just indicative of society. But why were they busy slut shaming the women when they should be saying, like, he's ugly. Why are they fucking around with him? Like, a woman's sexual activity shouldn't matter. Okay? Let's talk shit about the men in these situations. Because this is a player, manipulative, emotionally abusive player asshole manipulating 3 young independent women. And you're busy worrying about the women having sex. You're gonna slut shame them when he's the one being the man whore. No. I think it is perfectly okay, honestly, to slut shame straight men. And that's what I'm doing right here. I mean, like, what the fuck is her name? Felicia? Yeah, Felicia. Yeah, she's religious. She's very much a symbol of what conservative religious people are like. So, like, the fact that she was doing all that makes sense. But, like, why was the whole town? Why did they care? Why did they care? Why? No. No. Stay out of the drama. It's not worth it. Yeah. Why do you give a shit who someone is having sex with? Especially when the person they're having sex with is the one in the wrong. Fuck you. Bye, Felicia. Fuck you. Continuing on, I do, again, going back to him being a piece of shit, this is like the occult version of 9 to 5, minus the, iconic theme song to go with the movie. But, like, this very much feels like the occult version of 9 to 5, which is funny. I was gonna mention, why was I gonna mention Death Becomes Her? That's not like 9 to 5 because it's more flipped, but like more in a way of like people being afraid of growing old. That's not 9 to 5 at all. I don't know, but I recommend that as well. I debated reviewing that for this month, but I did not. If you would like me to review that for Cult of the Month, do let me know. I'll add it to the schedule. Yeah, I debated it and then I went with this. I don't know. What did I watch? I watched something that finally made me want to watch this movie. Oh, it was United States of Terra. Somebody says like the Bitches of Eastwick in like season 3 of United States of Terra, and that's why I finally watched this movie. That's what it was. I also recommend that show. But yeah. Yeah, they all got knocked up. I don't really entirely, well, okay, no, the purpose of that was so we could have more of a stranglehold on society with this magic or whatever. But like, did we need to add that? Like, the pregnancy bit doesn't play that big of a part into the real plot, to be honest. I don't know. This sounds like somebody. This has vibes of like. I don't recommend this movie, but the A24 Hulu original film False Positive that came out earlier this year, has vibes of that too. I'm not gonna spoil that movie because it's pretty recent release, and this isn't a monthly review, but it has vibes of that as well. I'm like, why? Why do men care so much about continuing their bloodline? It's gonna end eventually, whether you like it or not, in your generation or later on. Your fucking bloodline is gonna end eventually. I promise you, this planet does not give a shit about your bloodline. Get over yourself. That's coming from somebody who plans on stopping my bloodline at me. Because as of now, the only person continuing the bloodline is my sister, and there is only one child in that. And I mean, my nephew's great. I love him. He's cool. But according to me and my brother, he's going to be the only one. Anyways, enough about my family. Yeah, it wasn't as spooky as I wanted it to be. TBH. That's what I meant, but like it wasn't what I expected. Because going back to Death Becomes Her, I was kind of expecting those vibes. But like looking back on it, it's directed by George Miller. It makes a lot of fucking sense. And like as I'm talking about this, I'm liking this movie more. But I'm still gonna give y'all my original rating at the end of this episode. Yeah. The scene where they started to fuck with him, I mean it's the 80s, whatever. But I don't agree that they were like, it's a voodoo doll, because that's a close practice. And it's close practice. Yeah, but that scene was fun. I enjoyed it. I'm not gonna lie. Men are emotional and dramatic and childish as fuck. So I loved it. Yeah, they're idiots. Men are idiots. And like when you figure them out, they will absolutely fall into your traps. And that's fun. That's fun. He deserved it. His character deserved it. You know, only when they deserve it. Don't fuck with people that are not doing anything wrong. But like, the man deserves it. Give it to him. Yeah. The poor ice cream boy though, in that scene, must have been traumatized. Just absolutely traumatized. He's like, man, this guy came in, ordered all this ice cream, and then he starts being weird. He starts fucking doing weird shit. But, you know, everyone who works in service or retail has definitely seen some weird shit. Not on par, but that's kind of on par. Somebody being in excruciating pain isn't fun to watch unless you know the context of why they're in pain, like in this movie. But like everyone has seen some like weird shit that like at work, and you're just like, what the fuck did I just witness? I had a moment like that where some lady from a cult trying to get me to join her cult at work. We love it. It's not the first time that's happened. The first time was at school. So if I had a nickel for every time that a random stranger came up to me and tried to get me to join their cult, I would have 2 nickels. Which is weird considering, which isn't a lot, but it's funny that it happened. But it's weird that it happened twice. I completely butchered that quote. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm not going to try it again. I thought about it and then I'm just not going to. Yeah. Going back to the religious aspects of it, I think this movie is good at commenting on how fucking wild Christianity is and how toxic it can be. Because like one thing that like a message I got from this movie was like, when we make mistakes, it's called evil. But when God makes mistakes, it's nature. That doesn't make any sense. I personally don't believe in a Christian God, so make it make sense. How is it that I mean, I guess deities, whatever, but like there's some fucked up things that happen in this world, and you think God did it on purpose, and it was just nature for some really fucked up shit to happen. That doesn't add up to me. Because what was the reason that makes those events deserving of it? All I'm saying is, as a Hellenic pagan, my deities aren't like that. I mean, they have their personalities and they do bad shit, but they have reason. You know, they're actually able to explain why they did that shit instead of just being like, it's nature. That's just the way it is. Yeah. Kill all men. Anyways, welcome to Rachel shitting on religion when they should be talking about this movie about witches. But me going off topic, is that anything new? No. You know what you're here for. Yeah. The funniest part to me about this movie is going back to when I said, can I pet that dog? There is a dog that just is like sitting there in the street, straight up watching Jack Nicholson get hexed, just like chilling, just like, hey, what's going on? And it's great. I love dogs. I love it. Speaking like that, I was dog sitting this past weekend, and like the dog I was watching, every time I sneezed or laughed or coughed or like answered a phone call, like made any little bit of noise, she would like sigh and then like give me a dirty look, and I'm like, bitch, shut up. I can't make any noise. You should just stare at me. Dogs are funny, man. Dogs are real funny. They just stare. They just be looking. They just be looking. They just be watching. Love it. Yeah. Also funny is like when they finally like throw the doll into the fire. Jack Nicholson basically blips out of existence. So I didn't know Thanos was on Earth in the 80s, but apparently he was, because he only blipped Jack Nicholson. Yeah. One thing that's fucking weird though, well, another thing that's weird, there's a lot of weird things about this movie, is at the end when they have the babies, the camera straight up gets the babies' peepees on camera. No censoring at all. I think that's fucking weird. Like, I know it's anatomy, it's whatever, but those are babies. I don't want to see that in my movie. I don't want to see a baby's parts in my movie. Adults only, please. Babies can't consent to that. That's weird. Let's stop taking pictures of our naked babies. Because I know that's a weird fucking trend. Like, people have babies and then they take pictures of them in the bath all naked and shit. Let's not do that. That's fucking weird. It's not cute. It's gross. It's weird. Like, I know, it's just normal. You only think being naked is normal when it's a baby. I've noticed. Like, some people. I don't care. Yeah, it's your body. You know, it's more natural than clothes. But, like, why do people think that it's only normal to be naked all the time when you're a baby? It's kind of sus. That's kind of sus. I'm not a nudist, though. I don't live with my parents, so I can't walk around naked. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, I would say that this movie is part of the Good for Her cinematic universe. Absolutely. Yeah. Also, like the house is dope. It's how I would design a mansion if I wanted one. I personally am a small house type of person. I don't want all that space. It's too much. But if I wanted to mansion one, I would design it like the one in this movie. Is pretty dope. Not gonna lie. Yeah. The score is also very John Williams. I mean, it's made by John Williams, but he has a distinctive sound, is what I'm getting at. So yeah. Oh shit. So yeah, Jack Nicholson, getting into the production bits of this. Jack Nicholson expressed interest in playing the role of Daryl through his then girlfriend Angelica Houston. After hearing that the original actor for the role, Bill Murray, had dropped out. I honestly think this movie would have been better with Bill Murray. He has the comedy chops. Houston was in the running for the role of Alex. And screen tested opposite Michelle Pfeiffer, who had already been cast as Suki, and Amy Madigan, who was considered for the role of Jane. After giving a self-confessed terrible audition in which she struggled with the tough dialogue, it's not tough, Houston realized she had lost the role, and it was eventually offered to Cher. It was originally set to be filmed in Little Compton, Rhode Island, but controversy erupted in Little Compton over whether or not its congregational church should be involved with the film's production. Warner Brothers instead turned to locations in Massachusetts. Principal photography began in July of 1986 and took place over the course of 6 weeks in Cohasset and nearby Massachusetts towns, such as Marblehead and Scituate. I probably mispronounced that. Castle Hill in Ipswich, Massachusetts, was used for the exterior of the Lenox Mansion, while the lobby of the Wang Center in Boston stood in for the main hall. Other interiors were filmed at the Greystone Mansion in Beverly Hills, though the swimming pool and Daryl's library were sets built on the Warner Brothers backlot. Prior to filming, a small carving shop led by woodcarver Paul McCarthy was commissioned to hand carve all the wooden signs for the businesses shown in the movie, including the newspaper where Michelle Pfeiffer's character worked. So on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a rating of 76%. The site's consensus states, a wickedly funny tale of three witches and their duel with the devil, fueled by some delicious fantasy and arc comedic performances. On Metacritic, the film has a score of 67 out of 100, with generally favorable reviews. The Washington Post wrote that that Hollywood pulls out all the stops here, including a reordering of John Updike's original book to give you one flashy and chock full of surprises witch's tale. Janet Maslin in the New York Times commended the bright, flashy, exclamatory style. Variety described it as a very funny and irresistible setup. Some critics thought that the last part of the film spiraled into ridiculousness. The Washington Post wrote that the second half lost its magic and degenerated into bunk. According to the New York Times, beneath the surface charm, there is too much confusion, and the charm itself is gone long before the film's over. Time Out wrote that the last 20 minutes dive straight to the bottom of the proverbial barrel with a final crass orgy of special effects. I disagree with that, because, like, you're watching a movie about witches, you should be expecting wild fucking special effects. Fuck you. Let's get ready for our least favorite person, Roger Ebert's review. He gave the film 3.5 stars out of 4, acknowledging that the movie's climax is overdone, yet added that a lot of the time this movie plays like a plausible story about implausible people. Fuck you. Fuck you, Roger Ebert. I disagree. The majority of critics saw the film as a showcase for Nicholson's comic talents. The Chicago Sun-Times thought it a role he was born to fill. There is a scene where he dresses in satin pajamas and sprawls full length on a bed, twisting and stretching sinuously in full enjoyment of his sensuality. It is one of the funniest moments of physical humor he has ever committed. It actually isn't that funny. I'm sorry, it's not that funny. I just thought he was fucking weird. I stand by my case that I think Bill Murray would have been better. The New York Times wrote that although the performers were eminently watchable, none of them seem a match for Mr. Nicholson's self-proclaimed horny little devil. Variety called it a no-holds-barred performance and wrote that the spectacle of the film is really Nicholson. I disagree. The Washington Post wrote that Nicholson was undisputably the star of The Witches of Eastwick, despite formidable competition from his coven, played by Cher, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Susan Sarandon. Although even more praise was reserved for Veronica Cartwright in an eccentric scene-stealing supporting role. She was great. I really think she was great. She did fantastic in this. If you're going to watch this movie for anybody, you're going to watch it for Cher, Michelle Pfeiffer, Susan Sarandon, Veronica Cartwright, and Richard Jenkins. I disagree with all this praise for Jack Nicholson. I don't think he's that funny. Ruth Crawford wrote, this film includes many fantasy elements. By far the most fantastic of them is the depiction of a single mother of 5 who has to work for a living and still has plenty of time and energy left to engage in wild adventures of sex and magic. If being a witch gives you the ability to do that, quite a few women I know would be very happy to sign up at the nearest coven. That's facts. That's absolute facts. So the film was nominated for 2 Academy Awards. For Best Original Score, obviously John Williams, and Best Sound. Both were lost to The Last Emperor. It did win a BAFTA for Best Special Effects, and it was nominated for a Grammy for Best Original Instrumental Background Score for written for a motion picture or television. Jack Nicholson won a Saturn Award for Best Actor. And they were nominated for a bunch of other Saturn Awards. Yeah. In terms of the release, why is there no fucking information about the release? I don't know. It does follow the book. It follows the basic structure of the book, but several major elements were dropped, with the book being darker in tone, which I think would have been cool. But, it's the 80s. What are you going to do? The setting of both is Rhode Island, but the novel sets the time during the late 1960s. In the novel, Daryl is more devil-like, less of an enabler, and more of a selfish, perverse predator and architect of mayhem. I think that was a good change. Also, the film omits a key episode in the book where Daryl unexpectedly marries a young innocent girl named Jenny, and the jealous 3 witches magically cause her to die of cancer. Definitely good they left that out. None of the 3 witches get pregnant at the end, and at the end, Daryl flees town with Jenny's younger brother Chris, apparently his lover. Yeah, I think it would have been good to not have the part where they get pregnant. I think that was weird. It didn't need to be there. Also in the book, Alexandra's last name is Spofford, not Medford, and Jane was Jane Smart, not Jane Spofford, and Suki was Rougemont, not Ridgemont. I don't care. There are differences in their hair and build too. Whatever. So yeah, the budget was $22 million. That's quite a lot, to be honest. But it's George Miller. And it made $63.8 million in the box office. So it was very successful. I decided to stop commenting on how I feel about cult classics and how they perform in the box office. I just don't care anymore. I know in past episodes I've been like, why, what? But I just don't care. I really don't. Yeah, that's the whole movie. I think it's pretty good. I like it. I don't know that I'm gonna rewatch it anytime soon. I don't love it. I think it has issues. I think it's messy at times, and I'm not a fan of Jack Nicholson in this movie. But I gave it 3.5 out of 5 on the Peach meter. But don't let me influence your opinions on this movie. Let me know what you think of it. Yeah, that's all I have for today on the Witches of Eastwick. Woo! Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. You can find me everywhere at Lucky Peach, LBCKY Peach. Yeah, as well as if you go to any of my socials, there is a link tree where you can find my Twitter, my Instagram, my Letterboxd, my TikTok, Discord that's associated with the podcast, YouTube. What else? Patreon, patreon.com/LuckyPeach, and Twitch. I really haven't been on Twitch, but it's on there. Yeah, we will have stickers coming very soon. I will update y'all through Twitter at Lucky Peach on production of the stickers. I'm currently working on designs at the moment, but they will be coming by the end of the year. So get ready. Hold on to your pants. Yeah. Yeah. And if you're listening on Patreon, obviously, at patreon.com/LuckyPeach, you get each episode a week early, as well as some other perks, including a new Patreon exclusive series, which is basically an Ingmar Bergman retrospective. I recently have acquired the box set from Criterion of Ingmar Bergman's cinema, and so every week on Patreon, only on Patreon, at patreon.com/luckypeach, available to all the tiers, I will be going through each movie in this box set every week, starting from the beginning with Crisis. So if you're on Patreon, at patreon.com/luckypeach, you can look forward to that. The first episode will be releasing at the end of this week, on October 8th, if you are listening early on patreon.com/peach. If you are listening with the regular release of this episode, that episode of me reviewing Crisis is already out, but you can still listen to it if you go join Patreon at patreon.com/luckypeach. Go check that out, as well as you get some other perks depending on your tier. Yeah, that being said, thank you to my patrons, Gio, Abby, Luis, Brad. Yeah, next week will be monthly review, where I will be reviewing Malignant. I'm not looking forward to it, I'm not gonna lie, but it's spooky month. I wanted to review something spooky, and also there weren't that many good movies that came out in September, so I didn't have many choices. But you can look forward to that next week. I will see you then. Have a spooky time. Thank you for listening, and stay peachy.